Yo Internet, welcome back to the channel. Fusion straighted spots with the Mustangs. Coyote got equipped with some billet oil pump gears and we'll show you how that happened. Look at this beauty. Nice competition orange, came out pretty okay. And left that cage raw. GSK fab. And I got the floors painted in here. Looking sort of like, I think what race cars do. And already got the battery box in and the fuel cell bolted back in along with the rear half of the wiring harness. So just on my way with the final assembly. So today, finally gonna get the engine off this tire, get the transmission unbolted from it so I can do the boundary oil pump gears and their billet backing plate and the crank sprocket. And in the meantime, I've been kind of sleeping on getting the subframe and these arms along with the headers out to powder coat. And these are Patriot tight tuck headers. Devin from GSK Fab also had to modify these a bit to get them to fit in the chassis. Hindsight, probably could have went with like a shorty Coyote header or even long tubes for an S197 or S550 application. But the firewall was so close, I didn't know if it was gonna work or not, and I already had the firewall kind of dialed, and as you can see, the primaries on here just dive straight away. So they ended up working real well, and Devin did a great job of modifying these. So now I just gotta get this engine sorted out and make it not look like a junkyard in here with it on a tire. So my Harbor Freight roll engine stand ditty there won't bolt on without the clutch off, so just another step in the process. Moving the bumper on the Fusion right now. We got a little something special for this area here. I'll show you in a bit long. But bumper's off, and I'm going to be removing this base model lower valance. It's textured, and it's only got one exhaust guy. So my buddy Vince sold me this lower valance from a 2018 Sport. And I can't remember if I showed you guys, I might have mentioned it in a previous episode where I fitted up some stock 2015 GT exhaust, and one side lined up perfect with that. And I'm thinking with these larger cutouts, it should be pretty money with that exhaust layout. So that's what I'm gonna do. And then maybe get to that later. And don't worry about that little guy back there. I get to deal with all these awesome things. With any modern bumper cover. Not too bad. There's one like aluminum rivet on each side that you have to drill out. But yeah, starting to put this in here. And if you got a good eye, you can tell this is pearl. I got basic white. I don't know if I'm gonna wrap it or just say whatever. You might not see it down there that low, but they do mate up there, so yeah, interesting to see what it'll look like on the car itself. All right. Did a little musical chairs with the cars here, and got these shop, garage, whatever you want to call it, kind of organized, and now I'm ready to dig into this. I really wanted to get a lot of grinding and painting done before cracking this beauty open. And I got a nice little stainless table I picked up this weekend, kind of put all my parts on and do things nice and neat. So ready to dig. Oil's drained, so I'm gonna pop all the covers now, and probably should have mentioned that I am gonna be putting in Boundary's oil pump gears and a crank sprocket, along with their new billet backing plate. So looking forward to showing you how to set that all up and time these engines. They're pretty easy to make it almost idiot proof, but we'll show you. We got the valve cover and timing chain covers off with little to no issues, except fun fact, you do need to take out all the bolts. This one little guy was hidden. I felt like an idiot because everything was loose, and I was like, why is the silicone so tough? But no, I'm just kind of an idiot sometimes. So now I'm going to get the oil pan off, because I have a nice Moroso Road Race oil pan that they were kind enough to provide me for this build. And after that, I'm gonna start taking the guides and tensioners off. First, I'm gonna time it. This mark needs to be at noon, but also this mark here needs to be up here. So by the time this swings around, that should give it the position it needs to. And then when all the valves will be essentially closed on this side, tear apart this side with the timing tensioners and everything else. And then we'll put this mark at 5 o'clock, which is right there, right? And then do the same over here, and then get the oil pump off and swap the gears. Got the oil pan and pickup tube off, and got my keyway at noon, and you can see the timing mark there, and the R mark on the sprocket there is also at noon. So what also means is all these valves on this side are closed. I did take out the spark plugs, let them just hang out in there so that this engine can be turned over easily. So now I can take all the timing components off on this side. Got all the timing components off on that side. That's actually it. This mark is important later. Actually, we're gonna replace that socket, but the boundary socket will have one too. But the keyway is at 5 o'clock. And so like on this side, all the valves are closed as well. You'll see some of the lobes are kind of close to the follower, but it turned over nice. So you can tell there was no interference. So I'm ready to take these components off and then make our way into the oil. Point out a little tip. I found a pinion nut, brand new, just laying around. You don't want to drive this bolt all the way into the crank in order to turn the crankshaft. You're just gonna gall the tip of it, or worse, bust the crank. Who knows what? So yeah. Now we can slide the gear off, easy peasy. Now I can take out the obvious bolts to get that pump off, and then tear into it. Few bolts, oil pump is out. We're going further. I want to thank Travis again for supplying this build with his badass billet parts. Now, I'm a machinist by trade, and I can appreciate all this stuff here. And I know the development and everything is not cheap, so I really appreciate it. I'll leave you guys a link to that. That's, I believe, at boundarypumps.com. America. Yeah, so he tells me that billet will be perfect for this application with all our high RPMs, because you know all these Coyotes like the RPMs, and I think I'll be seeing a lot of it on the track. So I'm gonna get to installing these. Just got a matter of zipping all these T30s out of there, and gears just come out loop them up real good, put them back in. I really don't have a good video system. I need 2 hands. There's a lot of videos installing these, so you kind of get the idea. I'll try and show some pictures on the way, so here we go. All right, that's it. I mean, they literally just pop in there. Pop the cover off, put your gears in there, use plenty of oil, keep it a little slippery, make sure it rotates in there okay. I'll show you a little bit here. It's kind of hard because the crank keeps that centered in the gear rotors, but just make sure it's nice and smooth. You can use oil pretty liberally. Clean that off of any debris or anything, and probably saw some oil glimmer there, but yeah, that's it. Get those torqued to 89 inch-pounds, put it back together. Bob's your uncle. All right, just as easy as it came off. Oil pump's back on. Gear did not slide off or on as easy as the OEM gear slid off. Took a little bit of persuasion. Gonna contribute that to, machining tolerances and whatnot. So that's pretty much it. It looks like it's at 12:30, not quite 12 o'clock. And then our keyway is probably at 5:15. So I'm gonna already start getting the timing stuff put back together. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to reference some stuff, but it's usually pretty easy. It's been about 1.5 years since I last did a Coyote, so just line up the dark links to, I think, I have to look, but this might have to go down in order to get this timed back up here where the L is. Yeah, so might have to turn the crank, but yeah, it's going well. Been doing this in one sitting more or less, so it's not too bad. As I realize, there's a ton of videos on how to time the Coyote, but in case you were curious and didn't want to go searching, I'll let you know on this side, and then probably just show you after it's all wrapped up. It's actually pretty easy, as I've probably mentioned. So, as I said, did have to turn the crank a little. I did turn the crank when everything was apart to make sure there wasn't any binding going with the oil pump gears. I know they're good products. I've used these gears in every modular motor I've owned and never had a problem. It's always good to make sure. So rotated the crank 360 degrees from where we had it when we took everything apart. So I did have to turn it back a little bit. See the mark there? It's lined up with this dark link, and that dark link is matched up with the L. Doesn't get much simpler than that. Got that first guide on. Got to put the tensioner arm on, and then I can compress my tensioner, do that little paper clip trick, and then repeat on the other side. So yeah, not too shabby. Not quite for paper clip, but like a 2mm Allen. So there, now it's all got tension on it. And I can do the other side. So one step I did overlook, because I was watching a video on YouTube, Ken Hillard. Before you do the right-hand side or passenger side, you have to rotate the crank 360 degrees and then the keyway back to 5 o'clock. I got it all back and sorted, so we're all timed up, and Ken Hillard also told me that once this is at noon, both your timing marks should be facing up. So now we're good to go. I just had to pop everything off and do it again. So not a huge deal. I doubt I hit any valves or anything because everything was just 180 degrees off on this side, even though Ken said that this side should have been off. So I just good to go. Cleaned all the gasket material that's on the corners of these things and cleaned the surface of the oil pan and the timing chain and the valve cover. Oh, what's that? This is the beauty that Moroso was kind enough to send me. It's a road race oil pan with lots of baffles and trap doors and whatnot. Perfect for this application. Now, that's going to increase the oil capacity to about 10 quarts. These things already hold 8. And not only that, it'll prevent any oil starvation. And in my experience with the Fox and the Coyote and that little guy, I've never had that problem like some push rod motors have. So with the combination of a stock windage tray and that awesome pan, we'll have zero worries of starving this thing of oil, especially with the capacity. All right, got this Coyote long block all buttoned up except for the harmonic balancer. I'm actually replacing that one. It looks like, see all these marks? Not from this guy. I think this was taken off once before because there's some damage there. Now I used the Chrysler Polar that you're supposed to, so I don't know what happened. And got that Moroso oil pan on there, by the way. This engine had looked like the pan gasket was leaking, but I cleaned everything up, reused it, silicone where it needs to, and I got a little oil cooler leak too from when I reran it, so I'm gonna probably tend to that in a little bit. But about ready to pop back in, got my parts ready and lined up to go to powder coat, so just chugging along. Yeah, while those are getting that dropped off tomorrow, I'm gonna work on squaring up my wiring harness just a little better in the meantime, and just keep doing it. I'm sure you noticed, if you guys follow me on Instagram and whatnot, that little bastard of a car back there. Doing more of a Instagram stories on there, or Instagram TV, so stay tuned on all fronts. By the way, I kind of forgot to mention that once you do get those parts back in powder coat, this thing will be ready for like the final assembly, so pretty stoked about getting all that done. So make sure to stick around, hit that subscribe button, you know, do all that dance that all YouTubers talk about at the end of their video, so stay tuned.